Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wrestleview Live number 120, a very, very special WrestleMania Night 1 edition. We have a lot to talk about, a massive night in Philadelphia. I am not alone, not by a long shot. As you can tell, we have a special guest, the legendary first ballot Hall of Famer, Mr. Adam Martin. Adam, always a pleasure. How are you?
Thank you for inviting me back. It's always nice to be here, and I get to be here for the big shows. I get to be the Roman Reigns of WrestleView, where I show up like once or twice a year, so it's kind of fun. I appreciate it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last time we had you on was the last time Roman Reigns had a match at Royal Rumble.
Was it really? That was his
Yeah,
last match?
That's
Okay.
true.
All right. Well,
so
then yeah, I was here. I had a good time watching the Rumble. So I was actually I remember Roy was like, "Are you going to do Mania?" Because I didn't do Mania last year, and I don't know what was going on. If I had something, I couldn't remember what was going on. But I've always been pretty consistent with watching the Rumble every year, and then but man, the hype for this show was really really good. I mean, I was messaging Roy like, holy shit, like people that knew that I used to cover wrestling were contacting me like, did you see like what The Rock did at that press conference in Vegas? And they were so there was like a genuine buzz, and that I've been paying attention and not watching the television shows from start to finish, but like I'll catch clips and stuff. I've been watching
yeah,
media interviews with The Rock and Cody and with CM Punk and stuff. So yeah, it was worthy of the hype. So I'm happy to be here.
nice. Well, glad you could make it. You're on the Roman Reigns schedule. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, you're not on the Roman Reigns contract. You're not on the Roman Reigns deal.
I know that'd be nice, right?
But
Yeah,
financially, that would be pretty cool. So,
We got to talk to Paul about that.
yeah, I
we
know.
gotta
We
we
should.
gotta talk to Paul. Talking
Paul-
about talking. So
Does
go
Paul
ahead.
do these anymore? Where's Paul been? Is he too cool because he has to wake up at like 4 a.m. to do these, or?
Something like that? Yeah, Mania for him starts at 2 a.m.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they have internet in the country where he lives. I don't.
Oh, that's a low blow.
That is a low blow. I was waiting for Roy to be like, "Hey, wait a second, hold
Wait
on."
hold on a second.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Hey, hold on.
The other person on this show, much more of a regular. I want to say the greatest Wrestleview.com Raw recapper, but Adam, I know you recapped Raw.
No,
a
Mike's
couple
the
times.
best. I mean,
Yeah.
here's the thing. There's like a top three.
Okay.
Actually, there's a top five you could put. I would put Mike at number one.
Mhm.
I would put Hunter at two. I almost put Dave Stevens at two, but he's a close two. But I put him at three. I'll put Paul at four and me at five, and that was just because I did it from like 2002 to like 2005, and then Hunter took over. So yeah, Mike's the best that's ever recapped Raw. So by far,
I am at least a third ballot Hall of Famer.
you are, yeah, 100%.
Not
Yeah,
first ballot. Not getting in first, but
Well, you're getting it first. Different year. We can't have all the big stars in one year, right? So
right. We got to space it out. So
we got to space it out exactly. But with that said, Mr. Mike Tedesco.
trying to keep my voice together here, but I am really, really excited to be here with you two gentlemen to discuss what they say is the biggest WrestleMania of all time. We're halfway through it right now, so I can't wait to hear what you guys think or thought of this show. It was a lot of fun to recap, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it and talking about it. So yeah, I think Daniel Show's right. I think I'm gonna get in on the veteran committee.
There you go. Mr. Daniel, and thank you everybody for joining us. We got a packed house tonight. If you're joining us live, let us know. Let us know where you guys are watching from. If you're watching us on repeat as well, let us know in the comments. It was a big night, as Mike said, halfway into the biggest WrestleMania of all time. Adam, you're more of the casual viewer these days. Did this feel like a big WrestleMania or the biggest WrestleMania of all time?
I don't know if I would say the biggest of all time, but I mean the hype for it was pretty healthy. I mean, although my brother did say I was talking to him the other night. He's like, WrestleMania is this weekend. He's like, how come nothing like hit my? He doesn't watch wrestling anymore, but he was like a little surprised that there wasn't more aggressive advertising. Maybe there was. I guess I don't know if they really feel the need to do that these days because the show always sells out almost immediately. It's so heavy with Peacock that you get constant barrages of advertisement, either if you're using the Peacock app, if you're watching, the USA Network, if you're watching Fox, and television viewing is so different for so many different people. So, but he was a little surprised. He's like, wow, I would have thought I would have known it was me. But then he also was sending me videos of Paul Heyman's Hall of Fame speech on Instagram today. So I'm like, okay, so it's getting into your algorithm at some point, and it gets into everybody's feed at some point. So it's not entirely inaccurate. But the first thing, and I said this on, I'm keep training myself to say X. I said this on X, and then I messaged Roy, was the production was amazing. I know a lot of people were annoyed with the influx of the advertising and the prime bottle in the middle and all the, the graphics around the barrier and the ring, changing to whatever. The dude wipes, by the way, during the Usos match was hilarious. And the dude wipes Twitter account was talking about that. They're like, we know what we're doing. They were talking about Rikishi and stuff like that and making references to Rikishi. But I know some people were kind of annoyed with it, but I told Roy it felt like I was watching an NFL game or a pro soccer game. And it just, the 8K camera shots, like the way the NFL will influx those into, touchdowns or introductions of teams and stuff. They were doing that. And they didn't do it a ton. They did it during the Rhea and Becky opening match. And I thought they would do that maybe a little bit more I thought they were going to do it for sure during the main event, but they didn't, unless I'm forgetting. But there was noticeable changes with production, and the new intro was awesome. It's just, you can just really tell there's no Kevin Dunn and no governor on the mic telling Michael Cole what he can and can't say. Like you can just tell, like the way the commentary is working, the way the shots. And I've seen stuff on social media the last couple weeks of people going like, look at this crazy shot of them going from backstage all the way down the ramp and then, circling the ring or following Sami Zayn through the back.
I love that. Oh.
And like the way Triple H came out tonight, where you got to watch him and follow him, and you're on his bed, and then you're going around Triple H, and there's noticeable improvements, and that's the first thing that really stuck out to me. And I actually didn't hate the set. Like I know I saw so many people shitting all over the set when they revealed it the other night, and I actually thought it was fine. I mean, it was a little, Mike's probably can speak to this the best of any of us. I mean, Mike's been to so many shows where they either go really over the top or they have it really minimal. And this one felt a little like the MetLife setup where it was, wasn't as gaudy as the one, I think it was 29.
29, where they had the Statue of Liberty on the top of the thing.
The Statue of Liberty, and then they had the big bridge kind of set. Like that was cool,
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I think people get pissed when they emphasize the screen and the big, like I love the big 40, the big, letters. And I thought that was cool, but I thought I love the lights that followed the ramp all the way down. Like it was like subtle, but it looked professional and it looked very high grade. So I thought the look of the show was really good. And then eventually as it got darker, I loved the Michael Cole weather updates, the fact that they were all freezing their nuts off. And I remember that was a thing at the MetLife show. And I remember Mike and Victoria calling us and talking about how cold that show was. And they designed something where they were pumping warm air from the poles in the corners.
Yes.
And it was feeding kind of like warm air into the ring. And I don't know if they did that tonight, but it was an interesting choice. Like I'm sure Mike was surprised when they booked Philadelphia in April, because like it could be snowing, for all we know. And it's a bold choice.
We had torrential downpours, flooding all throughout the area, and including that Cherry Hill, Philadelphia area all week. It was like, of course, it was my spring break. We get through Easter, and then I'm like, all right, good. Now I got a couple days off to relax and chill. Rained almost the entire time, which also brought in this cold front that we're experiencing now that had Michael Cole freezing his ass off throughout the whole entire show. Speaking to what you're talking about, Adam, it's like, so sometimes like under the Vince and Kevin Dunn kind of thing, like the show would kind of like exist in this like weird bubble where like the world doesn't exist, and they just do their show, but like incorporating I loved in the Rhea Ripley Becky Lynch match when they were saying Becky Lynch is like me, has been sick all week. She had her fever climbed to 102. How is that going to affect her? And how's this weather going to impact the competitors? Like, they started bringing in like these elements that weren't written for the story, but they're able to incorporate it into the match itself to make it more than just like they're having a wrestling match. They're having a sporting contest here, where, is she going to be impacted because she had the flu this week? It's like, they even reference Michael Jordan's flu game and how athletes can, overcome, being deathly ill. Talking about how she got through the 102 and the 50-degree weather and how this is just, let's see what Becky Lynch is really made of. When I'm sure when they were laying out the match, they weren't considering that at the time, but you roll with it. It's like, like real life happens, and they were able to incorporate that into the show just right off the bat, just doing that with the 8K camera and having challenger and champion, nameplates under them, just gave it like a whole different vibe. Like you said, it was like watching an NFL game. Even just doing the steady cam shots that they've been doing recently and following Sami Zayn from his wife to Chad Gable to going through that really long corridor to get to Gorilla, seeing Kevin Owens, going through Gorilla and following him. You're making the entrance with him. What an awesome, it's like, how many people have ever wondered like what it's like to walk out at WrestleMania? We got to do that tonight because they're trying some new stuff that would have been just not even considered. Nobody would even bring it up because that's just not on their bag. That's just not in their bag of tricks. I loved the presentation tonight, and I didn't even hate the stage. I thought the stage, sometimes you run the risk of having those gigantic stages, and then you limit how many people can get in there. And they're so red hot right now, and I had like people at, like you said, like your brother was bringing up WrestleMania. I had people at my job that I didn't even know like wrestling. And they're like, hey, do you ever watch wrestling? Like, they they don't know that aspect of my life. They're like, hey, you ever watch wrestling? Remember The Rock? Like, I was at trivia night at the bar and he was beating up this guy. He beat this guy to a bloody pulp. It was amazing. I didn't even know he was still wrestling.
A lot of crossover this year.
Tons of crossover. Tons.
Yeah.
I mean, like you can see just by the celebrities that they showed at ringside, like Vanessa Hudgens is not somebody that I would consider or think to be a wrestling fan, but she was at WrestleMania tonight. It's like, it wasn't like, the guy from 2.5 Men that wasn't Charlie Sheen, look who's at ringside, like that guy. Okay. That guy, like these are like stars. He had like Lil Wayne there. It feels like it happening. The Rock said on Monday that wrestling is cool again. And it really did feel that way tonight. It felt like a really cool, unique 21st century presentation. Not like, not just the same old sterile presentation. It felt like something that was made for a 21st century, little more sophisticated audience.
Yeah. It, just to kind of add to what you both said, especially in terms of the celebrities. I mean, Lil Wayne, then you had NFL stars, Super Bowl players, or Super Bowl champions, stuff like that. It was cool. And they've been talking about this. I've been a WrestleMania freaking junkie this week. Any content WWE has put out, I've been essentially watching it. And I was watching yesterday's kind of like kickoff show. And Triple H said, we're entering into a new era. We're just getting started. And then I watched the pre-show tonight, the kickoff, and even just having someone like CM Punk, and CM Punk was saying some outrageous shit on the pre-show, and he said, now I don't have anybody yelling in my ear telling me what to say. He actually said that. So the chains are off, right? The chains are off, and for the wrestlers, for the producers, the presentation is just different. It hits differently. It's much more enjoyable, and who knows what tomorrow has in store for us? Because you can tell they practice a lot of shit tonight. So hopefully,
Paul Heyman really narrowed that into in his speech last night, where he specifically was asked not to bring up Triple H, and then he focused on Triple H and was basically co-signing like, hey, this place is different now. Like they're creatively, there's no barriers. There's, it was basically saying like, Kevin Dunn and Vince McMahon are gone. And there was that moment, I remember discussing this with you guys last time, where, Vince was, quote unquote gone, and then snuck his way back in, and all that. Because there was kind of a moment similar to this that you guys were talking about, where it was, oh, this is starting to feel different, and we're moving into a new direction, and then it went right back to, I think it was it last year's Mania, the night after that?
The night after, yep.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was like Black Monday.
Yeah. So it's when Paul Heyman like really focused in and looked into the camera and said, "This place is different now," like that. And then you've heard stuff that like CM Punk has said in media, and it's changing. It's changing for the better. So I mean, like that's been the number one criticism. It's been one of my biggest criticisms of the company is that stuff just felt very robotic, and some people did need to be scripted because they just don't have the ability to go off script or improvise. But yeah, it feels the whole night, like just the production and the look of the show and the commentary. And I was telling Roy this too when we talked about the Rumble, like I was noticing it then too, but it especially tonight, it just way different feel. Felt like a professional sports broadcast versus like the WWE programming for as long as we've watched it. I mean, if you go back and watch an Attitude Era show and then you watch a show from like 2016, like it just looks like a very, very overly polished show in 2016. And the shows in the Attitude Era looked very like gritty, and they were still figuring stuff out. And it had like a little mix of the way the 90s production felt, but then they were also trying some new stuff, but it felt very unpolished. And then we got in, I think we all just got very used to that presentation of, we start the show and a guy cuts a promo and here we go to the back. And it just, Michael Cole just regurgitating everything that Vince McMahon was yelling at him on the mic. It just, we got so used to it. And then now we're getting this, and you can just tell instantly. You can tell right away. It's impressive.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like who knew that Michael Cole could be such a great commentator? Like
I know.
Could you imagine like they take the gloves off of Michael Cole and like he's finally like free to run and he actually sucks? Like that would just be terrible. He's actually really good. He's really good. And he really does care. Like that whole polished sheen. Like I loved that. They kicked off the WrestleMania broadcast itself with like footage of Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins entering, coming in at like
I love that.
That was so good. That was incredibly good.
They do that. They've been doing that like every week on Raw and SmackDown. They keep showing shots of like Lincoln Financial Field so that like this is where WrestleMania is going to be. This is the destination. Here they are coming to the arena. What are they going to do tonight? How are they going to like? So good. And every now and then they even start them off in the ring and they say, "This is what you're going to be seeing tonight." No, that's really good stuff.
It's good.
Something I've realized the last couple of weeks, even tonight actually, was the lack thereof. WWE Universe. It used to be thrown around 10 million times per show. And especially tonight, like you think of WrestleMania, they'd mention it. I don't remember them ever saying WWE Universe. Like when they fought in the crowd in the main event, it's like, oh, they're fighting in between the WWE Universe. They didn't even say that.
Then I didn't notice that. Yeah, no, you're right. They it's just a whole like that's the key though, is that they've had
getting out of that bubble.
They got to get out of that bubble. They had I remember someone grabbed, I don't know who leaked it, but someone leaked a sheet that the commentators always had, and CM Punk confirmed that it was legit. Of do not say these words, say this, like don't say hospital, say medical institution, don't say belt, say championship, like all these things you could and couldn't say. Or if you had a word you wanted to say, you had to say a variation of it. You couldn't call them wrestlers; they were superstars. And so the fact that you can just tell with Pat McAfee being there, like he's just saying whatever comes to his head. But I completely forgot too that tonight marked Michael Cole's, I think he said it was his 23rd. And he started at WrestleMania 15 when Jim Ross was, and Jim Ross was brought in to call the main event of that show. But when Jim Ross first started experiencing Bell's palsy, they brought in Michael Cole, and he became kind of the lead with Jerry the King Lawler. And I forgot that, and it was in Philadelphia with that Mania that took place. So I totally forgot that he's been doing that long. I mean, he's a lifer there. So I mean, he's been there for a long time.
Yeah, that was what 98 or so.
99,
99.
Yep.
99.
Yeah.
You hung the big boss man that night.
That's right.
Yeah. Even I'm reading in the comments. Alex, Wrestleview's own Alexander says, I don't remember hearing much sports entertainment stuff tonight.
Yeah.
Especially last night, for example, as you mentioned, out of Paul Heyman, he's like sports enter, and then he did like the whole professional wrestling.
Yep.
It was nice.
Yeah, actually, it really the Paul Heyman speech last night, and right up to telling people to suck his, that was incredible. But even like what Triple H coming out tonight, and saying this is a new era, and CM Punk on the pre-show saying like, I don't have anybody barking in my ear. Like it really seems like, not, the company is has obviously way distanced itself from Vince McMahon, but they're actually going out of their way to say like that legacy is not going to, continue in this company. Like all of that, all of the stuff is gone. Like we're starting fresh. We're starting anew. We're building on what he gave us, but we're not sticking to it anymore for the sake of like, well, this is how Vince did it. We're doing it our way now. And it really felt like an our way kind of show tonight. This is what we think wrestling. This is how we think wrestling should be presented in the 2020s, and we're going to give it to you and just see what happens. We're not going to second guess ourselves. We're not going to say start rewriting things because maybe this is too predictable. We need to get a swerve in here. We're going to present to you the stories and present them to you, even if you kind of see where it's kind of going. We're giving it to you anyway, because we think it's going to be great, and we think that that's the best way to present wrestling right now. Not to insult your intelligence, but rather to present to you a coherent show and kind of celebrate the people that actually watch the show, rather than treat you like idiots and then ask you to spend money. Really, it's a total 180 from how the show was presented. The night after WrestleMania last year.
Completely different. Oh yeah, completely different. You guys want to get into the show?
Do it, baby.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Favorite? We'll stick to the classics. The same way we always start these. Favorite part of the show? You cannot say production. We've already talked about that.
Yeah, can't say production.
I thought we'd just run down the matches because I thought you were going to rub it in my damn face at on the prediction.
Well, we're getting there. We're gonna get there.
I kind of have I have like two moments I think that I thought were really good. I thought the Intercontinental title match was probably the best match of the night, just because of the way it was. It started there was kind of a theme tonight. A lot of the matches would start real slow, but they would eventually take their time, build, and watching the interactions with like Sammy's wife at ringside and then going back and then, there was just something about the back and forth I thought was really good with that match presentation. So I thought that was probably the best moment. Close tie though was probably the main event, like, cause it again started exceptionally slow. Even I was like, oh no, this is kind of falling a little flat. And I'm sure we'll get into more of that match, but doing the outside, it felt a little cliche, like, okay, let's take the tag match out of the ring and these guys go this way and these guys go that way. And I'm like, okay, I've seen this like a million times, but I now see why they paced it that way, because they were trying to really build up, the impossibility that was before Cody and Seth and how are they going to beat Roman and Rock. So that ending sequence I thought was really well done, but I think I'm going to say the Intercontinental title match. I think that from a pure build and the crowd reaction was just off the charts. I think the closest second to them match wise was the Rhea Becky match in terms of like the fans really getting into a match. But I think Gunther and Sammy 100% stole the show, at least for night one, for sure for me.
Mike?
For me, I just got to go with my favorite thing, the main event. It was The Rock hasn't had they mentioned that he beat Eric Rowan in 6 seconds 8 years ago, but he really hasn't had a real match since WrestleMania 29 in 2013. It's been 11 years since that happened. And he came out tonight looking better than ever. I mean, some guys, like Bill Goldberg, when he came back, he started wearing like those shorts and stuff like that. Those like athletic shorts. I mean, this is like a 50-year-old guy, wearing his tights that he looked like he was 27, and he moved and wrestled like like he just stepped out of 2002. He looked phenomenal all night, and I know that he had like I love that ESPN covered how he was preparing for this main event, talking about how he had a ring shipped out to LA. He had 2 rings shipped out to LA and made it almost like a training camp. It wasn't just like, all right, let's go run the match, like a training camp. He's running the ropes, he's taking bumps, he's doing the flat back bumps, doing flips, and everything that somebody starting out in wrestling does, and working his body so that he can, he's been doing it for a while, I guess, so that he can perform this match, and this match went 45 minutes. And he was able to do it safely, and he was able to take some risks, because the big criticism, or not the big criticism, but the problem with The Rock in his comeback matches has been that, he's so jacked, he's so lean that it's not a body made for wrestling. It's a great body made for like a muscle magazine and for an action movie where you can have a stunt double come in there. But when it comes to actually having to do something physical, he's so lean that he the one at WrestleMania 28 against John Cena in 2012 tore his hamstrings, and then at WrestleMania 29 tore his abductor muscles right off the bone. So he's been really banged up, and obviously it's a guy who's really very valuable to a lot of people involved in a lot of productions. He has his finger in a lot of pies, as they say. For him to get that ring out there and train and get his body in, not just he's in great shape, but in ring shape, showed how much he really truly cared about making sure this thing got off without a hitch, and how seriously he was taking this. And he didn't phone it in. I mean, he's taking bumps to the table. He's brawling in the crowd. He's, he's getting pummeled at ringside. He's doing everything that you would expect. It's like when Stone Cold Steve Austin came back 2 years ago and he's taking a suplex on concrete. Like these guys did not phone it in. They have a legacy that they want to protect as well. I just, I don't think enough could be said about what The Rock did tonight and how good he looked doing it. He looked like he belonged in the ring with a Seth Rollins, with a Cody Rhodes, and a Roman Reigns. He didn't look out of place. It wasn't a nostalgia act. It was a new Rock, a new persona, but he looked like he presented himself exactly how you would expect The Rock to present himself. So that was, to me, probably my favorite part of the evening.
All right. I'm gonna have to agree with both of you. Can be unanimous. The main event, it's tough. I mean, you have somebody like The Rock, and
you got a first ballot Hall of Famer and a third ballot Hall of Famer talking.
There you go.
Agree with us.
Who am I to disagree? No, but it's I was thinking about this during The Rock's entrance, and I messaged this to Adam. It was like an X tweet thing. It said, I've watched The Rock main event WrestleManias in 4 different decades.
It's wild. I retweeted that and said I'm officially an old bag of trash because I was there for all of it, and it's completely wild when you sent that to me. I was like, holy shit, that's it's accurate.
But
I was in 6th grade when he first main evented WrestleMania.
Was that 15 or because 15 was his first 15. One. Yeah.
And now I have 3 kids under 5. It's crazy.
That's right. That's wild, man. I know. We're all getting old, man.
That we are. But he led by example. But The Rock led by example. He did take this seriously. My only thing about 5-10 minutes into the match, and something Adam, you mentioned earlier, was when they started fighting in between the crowd. I was like, oh, okay. Like, is this how, kind of like smoke and mirrors type of thing? Like, this is how we're gonna get through the match? The Rock, maybe he's tired already, gassed out, whatever it is. But once they came back from that, like they fought in the crowd, they got back, ringside and in the ring itself. That was when, for me anyways, the match really took off. And I've always been a fan of The Rock. And this wasn't just kind of like a one-off thing. He did take this seriously. And probably not the last time we're going to see The Rock wrestle this year. Probably him and Roman at one point, or him and Cody at one point. But this was huge. You have the 4 biggest stars in the company in the main event. You can't ask for anything bigger than that in that sense. So that for me was my favorite part of the night. Seconded only by, the Intercontinental title. That was massive too. I was not expecting the ending, but that one.
Yeah, like that match showed that you could have a pretty lukewarm story going into it, but if you can have a hell of a match, it doesn't really matter at the end of it, because that was a banger. That Intercontinental title match was a real banger.
It's massive. That brainbuster. That is a little.
He's been doing that since the very beginning of his career too. So someone actually dug up one of his El Generico matches on Twitter and posted a video and did like a side by side of him doing it tonight and that. It was identical. So he's been doing that for a long time. But
wow. But see, that's. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was kind of like a tip of the hat to old school fans of his, and then people that have been watching him since he's transitioned from NXT to the main roster for a long time. But I mean, he's had a hell of a last 2 years, so It was pretty cool. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was. I wrote, I was like, that's how you do a title change. Like there's sometimes you get title changes and it just feels like very predictable, and it's like, okay, we kind of expected this, but the way they just kept building and building and building, and like there's no way he's going to do that. I loved the fact that he didn't do like the old school 80s comeback. He just was like flopping around the ring like a fish that was out of water, and he was just trying to like figure out a way to like pump himself. I thought that was great. That was really
he wasn't hulking up.
No, he wasn't hulking up, but he was it was a form of it, but he was like almost having like a temper tantrum to like psych himself up a little bit. I thought that was really well done. So it's good shit.
You get the adrenaline flowing and get some life, and it was so good. I can't wait to talk about that actually. I really, let's take the card from the top. Let's
do it. The opening match was as I predicted. It was Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. What do you guys think for this one to open the show? Women's title match. Fans seemed into it.
I thought it was a good statement for how they obviously how they consider women's wrestling. I think a big criticism last year was like, for that night one, could you have done Ripley versus Charlotte in that main event like so many people were clamoring for? I guess so, but there's a lot of pressure that gets put on performers when they're asked to open a show, because they set the tone for the entire rest of the evening. And in this case, the industry or at least WWE, it just keeps referring to this as this is the biggest WrestleMania of all time. So to put Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley in that position to open up what is supposed to be the biggest WrestleMania of all time is a humongous vote of confidence. Not just in Becky Lynch, who's a proven star and tried and true, and all that battle tested, all that hyperbole you can come up with, but Rhea Ripley, who really truly is one of the faces of this next generation of this new era in WWE that Triple H came out and said this is the new era. When he said that new era thing, I was thinking, Rhea Ripley for sure, 100% is one of the leaders of that new era. So to put what I would consider to be one of the faces of the new era in a spot where she can really shine and set the tone for the evening, because I think she's definitely earned it. She deserves it, and I had no doubts that they would go out there and have a great match. I thought that was a humongous vote of confidence in them, and they lived up to the hype. I saw some people that were like crapping all over this match. I don't know what match they were watching. Like somebody said it was flat. I was like, what? They were so into those near falls, and I mean, so was I. It was really, really strong stuff. I didn't. At no point did I think that Ripley was going to lose to Becky Lynch, but they really did make it interesting. And I love the whole thing with Becky narrating, excerpts from her book and coming out, through this augmented reality version of her book. Her tights had excerpts from her book on it. It was like great promotion for that. And then, so she got her promotion out there, and then Rhea, ran over her. It was a strong start to the show. Rhea Ripley is a beast. She is it to me. Like, really, I think she's a really special talent, and she continues to show it every single time she's given an opportunity to do it. She shows up in spades, and once again tonight, she pulled out another really, really good match with Becky Lynch, who in a lot of ways is still rehashing the character that she did in 2019. There's really no discernible difference between Becky Lynch 2024 and Becky Lynch 2019. So she needs a real shot of life in the arm. And this match kind of gave it to her. You kind of forgot that, like, she's been kind of, I wouldn't say phoning it in, but like there hasn't been anything really interesting about Becky Lynch. So go out there, have a good match that can change a lot of things, just like it did with that Sami Zayn match, where I was like, the build for this isn't that good. Maybe they shouldn't make a title change, but damn, that match changed everything. So
I didn't know going into it. I watched Becky on the MMA Hour, and her deal's up in 2 months. And I usually, they don't let stuff get that close, so I don't know if there was a circumstance surrounding that, but the fact that she kind of was like, yeah, it's up in 2 months, and I don't have and she could have been, workers be working a lot on that, especially on that show. Cody Rhodes spent about 45 minutes working Ariel Helwani about just about every topic they discussed, but she could have been messing around. But I think even if she was messing with people, she was kind of giving this hint like, hey, this might be my last WrestleMania, so you probably better watch. And I thought that set the table nicely, but I had no idea that she was, battling. Did they say she had strep throat or something like that, or or laryngitis? I can't remember what they said, but and that she had a temperature of 102 and 101, and that I thought that, like Mike was talking about how that they were talking about that during the match, and I thought that was good on commentary, but the pressure to do the opening match is, I'm glad Mike brought that up, was, that's super key. That's, I know like the thing the Orlando show that Mike was at, when Kevin Owens and Jericho went on like second, and I remember they were like really pissed that they had to go second, and then the match ended up just not doing very well. And there's that very famous scene where Kevin goes up to Vince McMahon. He's like, so what'd you think? And Vince is like, that wasn't it. And you just see Kevin Owens just like, oh, and he just like looks off in the distance, and he's just like watching the monitors in the back. So there's also added pressure with, like, you're pissed you got put on the second match, but if you don't have a good match, there's that other pressure. Like there's so much focus on like, oh, I want to be in the main event. I want to be in the main event. But opening a show like that is super, super important as well. So I thought they did really, really well. And there was I caught a little of the press conference, that I can't remember who was. I wish I remember the reporter that was asking Rhea, but they were like, hey, Becky's part of that four horsewomen, thing with Becky and Charlotte and Sasha Banks and Bayley, and how they were like they were that new era a long time ago, and now they're all kind of, Sasha's in AEW, Bayley's getting a title shot tomorrow, Charlotte's injured, but that's kind of changing a little bit, and now you have Rhea Ripley, who's like kind of the face of I know they have the two belts, which, I don't know how, I mean, Roy would have to speak more to that than I could with the presentation of having two women's titles. And I know they have two men's titles, so it kind of makes sense. But at some point, though, like, Rhea's going to run out of options. They're going to have to do something where, like, maybe, someone, she just, I see this scenario where Rhea is just going to tear through everybody, which I think is going to make for great television. But, she might be running out of opponents here soon. So, maybe the next goal would be to snatch up another belt and kind of do what Roman was doing there for a while before they introduced that ugly fucking world title that Seth Rollins, that title is so ugly. It's like I loved the WCW gold, but like it's like they shrunk it and put the WWE logo on it. It just looks like shit, which was hilarious because I was seeing people shitting on the WWE championship, the universal one that Roman has. And I think that one looks way better than the belt that Seth has. But I don't know. I just, that kind of struck me tonight of Rhea's just going to be that monster. She's going to tear through everybody, but like, who else are they going to have to, like, I mean, obviously Jade Cargill down the line. I don't think she's ready yet, but, but there's a lot of women that Rhea's faced, like that they need to keep it fresh, but
they haven't done, I remember, under Vince, they booked Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair randomly.
Yeah.
For Money in the Bank. I think it was like either June 2022 or July, right before Vince got ousted the first time when he gave his time for me to retire. I'm 77. It's like, yeah, no shit. Your time to retire is 67, bro. And then mercifully, not for Rhea Ripley, but like she wound up getting like a concussion, couldn't do the match. And it was like, thank God they didn't just blow this first time. I'm not a first time match. They had matches in NXT, really, really good stuff, but they have not done really anything on the main roster. that's the big money match. I think
Yep.
WrestleMania 41 probably. Like, I wouldn't do it any time before that. They kind of massaged Ripley. I mean, you talked about how she might be out of competitors for moving forward. She was out of competitors this entire year. She went to Puerto Rico, faced Zelina Vega in a match where the commentators were like, "There's no way Vega's winning this match, but she'll put up a good showing." It's like,
yeah, I know.
that was the storyline, was that she's going to lose, but let's see how interesting she can make it. I'm trying to think what else she had. What other big matches did Rhea Ripley really have? She had Nia Jax
last month, yeah. Well,
the Australia show, yeah.
In February,
the Australia show. I can't. I think she faced Liv Morgan.
Liv Morgan. When they gave Liv Morgan a short push, and they had a match with her, which wasn't great.
But, so my point is they basically, she's been facing like on house shows like Ivy Nile. She beat Raquel Rodriguez in like a power versus power match, but at no point was she in danger. And a lot of matches against Natalya. They basically massaged her through an entire year with zero competition, and they saved Becky Lynch for this. I think they can do the same thing again if they keep her, relevant and distracted, kind of with like the Judgment Day stuff, and kind of, she just happens to be champion too. It hasn't been like a major focus. They can massage her way to WrestleMania 41 against Bianca Belair, perhaps.
Still a long way to go, but yeah, it's difficult for them to find, like, even now moving forward, who are they going to have go up against her? It's a tough one. It's going to have to be a repeat, probably. She's on Raw, and the main stars are really on SmackDown. Bianca's really on SmackDown. Asuka's on SmackDown. Bayley, who in all likelihood will probably win the title tomorrow, she might, continue her feud with Damage Control. But yeah, Rhea's ripped through the entire division. There's no one really left for her.
So then you start bringing people up, and doing what you have to do. Or the draft, that's going to be next month can solve a lot of problems too. That'll give her a fresh slate of opponents and things like that. Yeah. I'm not worried about her. I think she's really, really strong, and she's doing some good work with the Judgment Day. And I think there's going to be a lot of drama with the Judgment Day coming out of WrestleMania. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens with that. Yeah, I thought it was a very good opener. You guys both mentioned it. I'm not, not much more to add. It's tough. It's difficult to close a show, and it's equally as difficult to open a show, because if the opening match sucks and the crowd's not into it, you're kicking off WrestleMania with a dead crowd. That's not a good thing.
Right.
It's not a good thing at all. But after that came the 6-pack tag team ladder match, where they did things a little bit differently. It was 2 champions. You had to grab both belts. Mike kicked it off last time. Let's go with Adam. What do you think?
Just chaos. I mean, it was just it was all over the place. And there were some fun spots. Like I enjoyed the reactions that Truth was getting, because the crowd was just so behind him, and anytime he was trying to do something, they were super into that. But they had a lot of it was chaotic, but it was like controlled chaos. There was a couple of moments in the match that like there was that table spot off the ladder with the guy from the Judgment Day. I forget his name.
JD.
Yeah, that was a hell of a bump. And there was a lot of those. But the one moment that was kind of freaking me out was I think it was Damian Priest and The Miz were on a ladder, and it was completely buckling. I was like, oh no, like that could be really bad. So
that's why they ultimately botched that South of Heaven. Like, Damian Priest went one way and The Miz went the other way. Thank God.
I know.
That they kind of landed safely.
They did.
What's her name? Sorry, is it Samantha Carr or Amanda Carr? What's her name? The referee.
Jessica Carr.
Sorry, Jessica Carr. Well, at one point when Damian Priest was on the ladder all alone and he was climbing, she grabbed him by the leg.
Yeah.
She grabbed him by the leg, and he looked down, and I don't know if he got the message or not.
That's good. I'm glad she caught that, because that could have been really, really, because those are heavy dudes, and those ladders are, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's very high, but like once you get up on top of a ladder and then that thing would buckle and they're not really sure where they're going to be landing, that'd be really scary. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, I mean, it wasn't like the greatest ladder match I've ever seen in my life, but I mean, I think they did a pretty good job, and I loved the first with Austin Theory and Grayson winning the belts. And I was reading stuff online like that those guys were supposedly going to be like pulled from this match or something, and then there was some kind of like report that came out that they were going to get pulled, and then the fact that they pulled down the belts the first, I thought that was hilarious. And then the ending sequence with Truth winning, I thought that was fun with him and Miz and having that moment at the top. But yeah, it was. I'm sure I'm forgetting stuff because we just watched 4.5 hours of wrestling, but it was fine. I had a good time with it. I thought it was a good match.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment 100%. It was chaos. It was really, really difficult to recap, to be honest with you. There's just so much stuff going on. It's like, Adam, like when you recap these matches, like, you have to pick and choose like what you even disseminate, in the recap. It's like, stuff that the camera focuses on, like, I guess I'm going to do this. Oh, my wife. Oh, I don't know if she's talking to us or the people in the chat.
Love you, Victoria. Yeah, I know. She's probably talking to those guys. Yeah, she's probably like, I'm not going to say anything to Mike and Adam and Roy.
Yeah, right now she's in the "you did this to me" phase.
Exactly. Don't like look at me again. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
2 weeks away from giving birth again. I did it again, man. I did it again.
Did it again. Good job, Mike.
My super seed here.
Shaking his head.
But like, yeah, it is funny that they thought like A-Town Down Under was going to be pulled, and then they wind up being the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I really just loved the spot in the middle of the match because R-Truth has been going through this thing for weeks where he thinks, first he thought he was part of the Judgment Day for a long time, even though he was not. And then now he finally, I think he's come to terms with the fact that he is with the Miz, like they are a tag team. But he thinks that DIY is D-Generation X. So, he keeps calling them Regeneration X. And I love that they played into that spot tonight. Johnny Gargano as HBK, that's what R-Truth thinks he is, hits the sweet chin music. Ciampa as Triple H hits a pedigree. And then, even R-Truth doing the hot tag in the middle of a ladder match, doing the whole John Cena comeback, his childhood hero, even though he's 52 years old. He's 52 years old, by the way. Wow. He looks incredible. Incredible. Yeah. And then counting his own pin. There are so many, in between all the chaos, it was like a real interesting, variety show where, you have the R-Truth comedy, and then you have some action, and then you have this hope spot with R-Truth going up there, only get pulled down. And then later on, R-Truth winds up making everybody happy with his first WrestleMania win, becoming Raw Tag Team Champions with The Miz. It was a great story that was being told here with R-Truth, and people knew the story. They were into it. And I had a blast watching it, and especially for R-Truth. I don't know if splitting up the tag titles was completely necessary. It does make sense because this match was conceptualized by the two general managers. So I saw a couple people online saying, "Why are they split the titles? It makes no sense." It's like, well, it does, because especially if they conceptualize the match, they can say we can break these titles apart or whatever. They have an out there. But there were some amazing spots here, Ciampa hitting that air raid crash on who was it? I think it was Tyler Bate, who took some nasty bumps tonight off the top of the ladder. That DDT that Gargano gave Pete Dunne off the table at ringside was wild.
The double moonsault.
The double moonsault by New Catch Republic. Adam mentioning that JD McDonough took that really nasty spill off the ladder through the tables. And it was like they have the two tables thinking it'll cushion the blow. But invariably, I've seen this spot happen a million times where they miss the first table and they just blow through that second, that one single table. There's nothing absorbed it. But even the ending sequence, they kept Damian Priest looking really strong, which is kind of and they did lean into the fact that he's Mr. Money in the Bank. Drew McIntyre's doing career work, and he's really just killing it. Seth Rollins was left looking pretty brutal at the end of that main event. I mean, I wonder if Damian Priest, who looked so brutal tonight, especially with that razor's edge on Kofi on that chair, that was really a tough spot. And even the razor's edge, I forgot who he did it to, but he threw somebody into the ladder with a razor's edge and knocked the ladder over and his partner, which was wild. They went out of their way to make him look really violent.
Grayson Waller took that powerbomb spot on the ladder, and I mean, I could tell he landed pretty safely, but his cell job where he was just like, oh, like I thought that was effective because like he knew exactly where the camera was going to be, so he was just like screaming in agony, and I thought that was really well done too. But I mean, it's a hell of a bump. I'm sure it didn't feel great, but it looked like he was okay. But yeah, there was some pretty scary spots that could have gone wrong that I think everybody was okay. But yeah, those are a little scary.
No doubt about it. I am wondering though, like, what do they do with Damian Priest and that Money in the Bank briefcase? They leaned into it tonight. They made him look super strong, that he was almost beyond or above the tag titles. I wonder if there will be something with him tomorrow night.
I kind of hope not. I like Damian Priest. I love Drew McIntyre. I don't want to see him cash in on Drew. Not yet. Unless they do a thing where Drew wins, Damian cashes in, and then Drew wins the title at Clash at the Castle in Scotland, which is in June, right? So maybe, but like you said, Mike, Drew's doing career stuff, literally. But yeah, this was a dangerous match. Is it just me, by the way? And we're gonna talk about every match on the card. It was almost as if every match on the card, I just found myself just flinching and like, holy crap, like this was dangerous. That was a dangerous spot. Every single match felt like there was something like that. In this one, multiple spots.
Except for the Usos match, I think. But for me,
that one was an ooh altogether. Where we just kind of that wasn't.
We'll get there. Oh
yeah,
my
we'll
God.
get there.
That was a tough one.
We'll get to that one.
That was tough.
But yeah. It was
great. I loved it. I like, I don't know how necessary it is to split the tag titles. I don't know. Like, I think that they have enough tag teams to make it a really interesting division. I don't know if they can split those into two divisions, but
that's the thing. Who knows what they're going to do after WrestleMania, right? Like the whole new era. Are they actually going to treat the brand split as a brand split? Or is it like what they're doing?
Well, that's the thing. And also, like, I mean, really, new era, I really, truly am giving everything's getting the benefit of the doubt right now. I'm not, there's a plan. Like right after the WrestleMania finished airing, which, by the way, I love the new bumpers, that they came out with Then Now Forever Together. I think the brand new video graphics and everything, narrated by Triple H. At the end, I don't know if you guys caught this. You remember, like, the original tag for, like, it was like the World Wrestling Federation for over 50 years, the number one leader in sports entertainment. They had Triple H do that, and it was like for over 70 years.
7 years.
Yeah, they moved it to 70 years. This is a feature of World Wrestling Entertainment, blah, blah, blah. I love that stuff. It, like, really just some good, like, totally pointless, but I just love all that stuff. But everything's getting the benefit of that because, they aired a little trailer after WrestleMania aired. I guess, like, talking about, there's going to be like a documentary about how this Mania was made. And Triple H said like 80% of this card was written back in October. Like we knew exactly where we were going. And, then you bring in The Rock and how can we make this even bigger? So they have plans. They're like I said earlier tonight, they're sticking to the plans. They're going to present you the stories that they've conceptualized and they're not deviating from the script. I mean, they'll deviate if they have to, if there's like a really strong reaction or somebody gets injured, you can't help that stuff. But they're listening to the fans, but they're also, staying the course rather than like, not 3 weeks, didn't get over, you're out.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So I'll see what they do with the tag titles. We'll see.
Yeah.
It is. They're giving everything a chance. Moving on, it was another tag match. This one, a more traditional one. Latino World Order. Oh, not Dragon Lee, but Andrade versus Santos Escobar and Dirty Dominic Mysterio. Adam, what was it?
Just the chuckle? Dirty Dom stuff is hilarious to me. Like I haven't watched it as closely as you guys have, but like he still looks like a kid, but like I love the fact that when he walks out, he gets so much heat. Like he gets a ton of heat still. So, but this was another wild, chaotic match where it was just like a ton of stuff going on, a lot of people at ringside. I didn't even that little slingshot spot. I didn't realize that guy was in TNA at one point. I forgot I recognized him because like, oh, I remember that guy from TNA.
Yeah, DJ something,
Yeah,
DJX. Or
yeah, I forgot he had like a DJ gimmick and he used to come out with like hairspray and he would spray it and stuff and yeah, it was hilarious. But it was a lot of like I'm still baffled that Rey Mysterio is still wrestling. Like, how old is Rey Mysterio right now?
he's got to be in his 50s as well, I think.
I can't believe he's still going because like when we saw him in Chicago a couple years ago at All In, I was
49.
like 49. Okay. I was thinking when we saw him live, Mike, I'm like, we're seeing like the last like year, like maybe two out of him. And DJZ, thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
And
Oh, it's DJX. I said.
and Zima Ion, yeah. He had many monikers, but he did that springboard tonight where he did it so far that he went outside of the camera shot. So if you didn't see it, it was very entertaining.
That was pretty cool.
That was pretty badass. And Andrade looks like a tank, man. He just looks so big. Like he can move so quick, but he just looks like he's built like a heavyweight, but he still wrestles in that lucha real fast style. So I thought that was impressive. But I don't know. You guys would speak to this much more than I could because I didn't see much of a build to this. I just knew that this was a match on the card. So I didn't know if there was like underlying, storyline tones that I should have been paying attention to, but it is cool to see like a lot of, Latino, like they have a ton of guys on the roster now where they can like, I mean, they could legit, like I know for a while there that was kind of coming back when they redid the cruiserweight division and then eventually that just like fizzled and went away. But a lot of good talent that they have on this roster right now that I didn't realize, and that's there right now. So I thought it was fun. It was just I didn't know a lot going into the match, so I knew some of the players, but I didn't know everyone very well. So I was just kind of taking it at face value. So I'm sure you guys could speak to it better than I can.
Yeah, I don't really I haven't really followed this storyline as much, and honestly, this match kind of just felt thrown together. Like I thought it was weird that they did have Dragon Lee booked for this match initially, and there's been a lot of talk about that guy. They want to kind of endorse him as the next big masked superstar. I mean, like, they've been trying. I mean, partly the reason why Rey Mysterio is wrestling at 49 years old, and he'll be 50 at the end of this year. His birthday's December 11th, so he'll be 50 years old at the end of this year. The reason why Rey is kind of going, and they keep re-upping him to contracts, with some big money to keep him, is because they've never found that replacement for him. They were really hoping that when they signed Mystico or who became Sin Cara, that he was going to be the answer for them. I think they were hoping that Alberto Del Rio would be the next big Latin star for them, and that didn't work out. They think Dragon Lee's their guy. So why would you? I mean, he's not injured. As far as I haven't read any reports that he's injured. Why pull him from the match the night before WrestleMania and then not even have him do a run-in? It was just strange. Which I guess plays into the long burning storyline of Carlito, probably turning at some point. He didn't do it tonight. I thought maybe this would be a prime opportunity for him to do it, but they usually don't like to do big turns at WrestleMania that aren't like main event worthy. So they'll save that for something else. But yeah, it was strange that Dragon Lee didn't get into that. I was kind of bummed about that. But yeah, Andrade looked really strong. I mean, Rey Mysterio is still 49 years old. He can still move and do it with the best of them. Dirty Dom, again, like this is all stuff that just kind of felt like a rehash from like last year. Like it was just kind of thrown together last minute to kind of give a showcase for these guys. And really, the match really ultimately was a backdrop just for Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson to make their appearance, to make the local Philly fans extremely happy. And I do love Jason Kelsey. That guy is just wild, and Pat McAfee knowing these guys on a personal level just kind of made it even better when they showed up. So it worked. Just for that stupid reason, whatever.
Kelsey's doing side quests this entire year after Philly got bumped out of the playoffs, like showing up at the Super Bowl, getting absolutely tanked, and then going to the Buffalo tailgate and getting tanked, and then he's at WrestleMania and a lucha mat. Like he's just doing everything. So
Right. And his brother is doing very well for himself with Taylor Swift. So
that's right.
And his brother, he was at the Super Bowl because of his brother.
That's very true.
Also to get tanked, but he
Yes,
may have also shown up for his brother. I'm not sure.
Yep.
But that was it. I guess the name Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson, those two names don't really strike me as names that would go into the Latino World Order. But for one night, they were Latino. that is enough for me.
Yeah. No, it got picked up by some major sports media. It was hitting my feed almost instantly. So
isn't that the whole purpose of these things?
It is.
Really.
It is. Yeah.
It just gives it gets that rub, so your brother can finally find out about WrestleMania.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Alex can finally know that WrestleMania
Jason
is
Kelsey
happening.
was there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Did you know who those people were, Roy? You probably were just.
I knew Kelsey. Yes.
You knew Kelsey. Okay.
Well, because of his brother. And
yeah.
Well, I did watch the Super Bowl, right? So I have an idea. Yeah, I do.
I'm proud of Roy these days, Mike. I was watching the Super Bowl and Roy's started texting me. I'm like, "You're watching the Super Bowl?" And he's like, "Yeah, I thought I would check it out and see what was going on." And so,
well, the entire playoffs, to be honest.
Yeah, you've been paying attention. Yeah,
I've been paying attention. No, I knew who one of them was. The other guy had no clue, to be honest. I guess he played for the Eagles or plays for the Eagles. I don't know.
Yeah, he wasn't as well known as Jason. Yeah.
There you go. But see, my question is, because I'm still, I live in Canada, North America. Obviously, NFL is massive here. Not as big as you guys, but it's still massive. But someone that's overseas or elsewhere around the world, you're watching this thing. Who the hell are these guys?
Who's that dude? Yeah.
Who's that dude? Right. But no, I get why they did it. Absolutely, it was very smart. And to kind of answer your question a little bit more, Adam, in regards to the backstory. There's no real backstory to this. I mean, they've been feuding for the last couple of months, these two groups, and that was it. It never led to any major spots, any major matches, nothing massive up until like last week where they're like, "Oh, we challenge you to a match at WrestleMania." And then I was like, okay. And Dragon League got pulled yesterday. So I don't know. Mike mentioned maybe Carlito turning, but Carlito shows up on SmackDown once a month. So it's not like he's there always doing something. So even if he were to turn, it wouldn't change too much.
No.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see what gives. We'll see what gives for that. Next up, guys, fair to say the absolute worst brother versus brother match in WWE history.
It was such a dud. What sucked was the video package before was really good.
Great.
Like really, really good. And I remember, I think around the time of the Rumble, when I was talking with you, Roy, I was like, holy shit, like Jay's like really, really, really over with the crowd. And I love Pat McAfee driving Michael Cole nuts and getting up on the table and doing the bounce. And that stuff's like really, really funny and hilarious. But like, what the fuck was that? Like, it just was like a super kick party with the Young Bucks. Like, I know that's a thing that the Usos had done and still do, and they did it as a tag team. But like, the crowd was like, there was an obvious reason why we probably all three feel the same way about this match. Was a lot of the other matches had that like, okay, start slow but build, and this match started slow. Then they just started super kicking each other, and then it was over. And it had no chance to breathe. It was just it was weird. It was laid out. I'm kind of curious who produced the match, like who put it together, who thought it was a good idea. I know like sometimes getting a match in the middle of WrestleMania can be just pure death sometimes, because sometimes by that point the crowd is kind of spent, but they had such a good opportunity and such a good backstory, and then it just fell real flat with me. It was that, to me, this was without question the biggest dud of the whole night of night one.
Yeah, without question. And they positioned it where, like the Rey and Andrade tag match was supposed to be like a buffer match to kind of, let's have some fun, cool it off, whatever. And then pick it up for Jay and Jimmy, and then kind of cool them back down with the 6-woman tag right after. It was like positioned in a way that they were expecting this to be something special. Unfortunately, it was like one of those. It was like one of those typical Bloodline matches where you know, that's why I really like the main event. Even though it did start slow, they really kept the action going this time. So much of these like Roman Reigns matches through the last couple of years have been like a lot of like emoting and talking and some like brutal vicious beatdowns. Like think about the Royal Rumble last year with Kevin Owens. There was a lot of like stalling, but like they were building the drama to like a big chair shot or whatever it was. But a lot of it was relied a lot on the acting of the guys in the ring. And I think they thought that that this match could be carried on the drama and the acting. But like all through this feud up to even through the build up, I didn't really feel it because they didn't really have too many interactions other than Jimmy running in. They did one or two promos against each other, and then it's kind of like, okay, they're facing WrestleMania, but it was missing that like drama factor. But they presented the match as if it was super dramatic. They were hoping that like come on, like whatever Jey was saying to Jimmy and Jimmy was saying to Jey, they were presenting it like we got this like big Shakespearean thing going on here, but it just did not connect with the crowd. I think they missed an opportunity to get more family involvement in this one too. It kind of just felt like, even though it's a Bloodline thing, it existed outside of like this like Bloodline canon. Not even like anything from Rikishi, like family at ringside. They focus on Sami Zayn's wife for half of the Intercontinental title match.
Mm-hmm.
Not even Haku. He was there. Come on, like Atta Johnson, The Rock's mother, anybody could have just been shown at ringside like, oh my God, I can't believe our family is disintegrating like this. Anything to just add some drama. Instead, they just went out there. They tried to lean on, the Bloodline formula of let's emote a lot. Let's say a lot of things in the ring. And then let's do a couple big moves and then go to the finish. But it really just did not connect with the viewing audience and the crowd itself. And that, honestly, they lost me at the super kicks. It was just, it was too much. It was like always in wrestling. You have to take it with a grain of salt and suspend your disbelief. But like, it just got, there were so many super kicks being delivered that it was just like, this is getting stupid now.
Well, that's what takes me out of like Young Bucks matches. It's like when you've hit like 32 super kicks in the course of 4 minutes, it's like it doesn't feel special. It doesn't feel like and
it kind of like I was watching it also, and I was kind of like, that's why they were a tag team for so long.
Yeah, but Jey has, I mean, maybe this is me being a dick, but like Jey seems like he has way more upside as a singles guy than Jimmy does. But maybe Jimmy can show something later. But Jey right now has found his niche of just like the interaction with the crowd, even though Lil Wayne was absolutely terrible tonight. Like, I don't know why. I don't know what he was, if he just was like excited, but like
weird.
His voice sounded very, very weird. Like he doesn't usually sound like that when I've heard Lil Wayne perform, but like it was really bad. But I don't know what it was about and I was thinking like, okay, like the last hyped brother versus brother match that I remember as a kid was Brett versus Owen, and I loved that match. And the fact that Owen, the little brother, beats Brett, but then Brett goes on to win the title later on in the night, had such like a great story. And as a kid, like me and my brother, we watched that match, and I was pulling for Brett, and Alex was pulling for Owen, and he was like just in my face, is like, Owen beat Brett. I knew he was going to beat. It was just. And maybe I was putting too much stock into that of like nostalgia as a kid watching that. So I was like, oh, this could be fun. This could be kind of like Brett versus Owen. Not the same kind of build, but it could have potential to be good. And it just stunk. Like I don't know what, and like, I don't think these guys are bad wrestlers. I just, something was off. Something was really, really off tonight between the both of them. And I don't know what it was.
I think the ability to carry a singles match is definitely, I mean, you're right about Jey Uso. He's had, and he, at the beginning of that Bloodline storyline, he did a lot of the heavy lifting because Jimmy was out for like a year with a really terrifically horrible knee injury. And so Jey had to do the heavy lifting, and he wound up in like those big matches where they first started kind of floating this new formula for doing Roman Reigns matches. I remember that Hell in a Cell was like, like basically a half hour long. And it was like all talking and some brutality that just kind of went on forever, but it was compelling because there was a clear story behind it. I mean, there's definitely a story, but like, God, it just didn't connect. And I don't think Jimmy's at Jay's level. I think Jimmy needed a few more reps. Jimmy hasn't, I don't know how much experience they've been giving him with singles matches, but it stunk. There's no other way to put it. It really stunk.
But see, even if, I'm going to argue that even if Jimmy's not on Jay's level, which I agree, I don't think he is. These guys are brothers. They must have wrestled each other a billion times. I mean, me and my brother, we're not professional wrestlers. We still wrestle each other every single day for years on end. You know what I mean? Like, and these guys are professional wrestlers, and on top of it, twins, brothers, whatever. Something other than super kicks, and then they had that spot exchange for 2 minutes where they're just slapping each other. That was it. And then you had the frog splash finish, and
it was so flat. It reminded me of, I always say, I use this example way too much, so I sound like a broken record, but when there would be like a TNA pay-per-view main event and the finish would just happen, and I'd be like, okay. And it would just out of nowhere, the crowd would have no reaction. It would just, there's the finish. And that's how that felt tonight. It was just bam, it was over. And I was like, what did I just watch? Like it didn't even have an opportunity to breathe and build to something. It just finished. It was done.
Exactly.
So
and it was given only like 10 minutes too. Like it really was not like it wasn't even long,
but
I don't
they
know.
had Little Wayne.
Yeah, Little Wayne was there, even though you couldn't really understand him at first. But yeah, that was
it was a waste. It was a wasted opportunity. Like this was definitely the worst match of the evening for sure.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We got the big, I guess, official debut: Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, and Naomi versus Damage Control. This could have been worse.
No, it had one objective: get Jade Cargill over. Actually, it had two objectives: get Jade Cargill over, and don't let her do anything.
Which they can't get away with much longer. I mean, eventually she's gonna have to have some singles matches. Like they can't keep protecting her the way they did in the Rumble and the way they did tonight. Like,
well, I mean, this is her first match since the Rumble, so they kept her off of television. They brought her back, or they debuted her on SmackDown only 2 weeks ago. So they had this really cool superstar presentation for her. And most of the people that are watching WWE don't watch or never saw her on AEW. They have no idea what AEW is. Honestly, like that is the reality. The reality is not what happens on X. There is a true reality where people do not know what the hell AEW is. So she's coming in fresh to a really large portion of this fan base. They only showed her for Friday, and then they showed her 2 Fridays ago, and then they showed her last night, and now she's in WrestleMania. And I mean, the crowd was chanting Jade, Jade, Jade. They wanted to see her. That was the whole point of this. They kept her out till the end, and then she just did a couple moves and got the pin. That was it. And it was exactly what it should have been, a vehicle to get her over.
As long as she doesn't have to do any back body drops. That was
this comment we're getting from Eastside Reviews is accurate in that she looks like $1 million. Like just the
Absolutely.
entrance, the music, the flexing, just like, just 100%. Like that's there. There's moments where like I'm anticipating a botch, and I remember I didn't see a lot of her AEW stuff, but when I would see something, I would see a lot of mistakes, and but that was common in AEW of like a lot of unseasoned girls that were getting together and they were making a lot of mistakes, a lot of botches and stuff. But the only issue I had tonight was they're pairing her with Bianca, and Bianca is by far just way leaps ahead of Jade in terms of wrestling ability. Like Bianca just doesn't miss. Like she's just bam, spot. Like she just, and the when she whipped Asuka with her, the sound that made, that crack of that, at first I was like, did they pipe that in or something? And then when they showed the replay, I was like, holy shit, they didn't do anything. They just let that happen. And I'm sure there's times she does that and it's not as loud, but like that is the one issue of like tonight of like, okay, Jade looks like a star. She looks like she belongs there. But then when you start watching Bianca wrestle, you go, oh shit, Bianca's way better. Like just leaps and so Jade will get there. I think they're being, as Mike was saying, and they're being very strategic with her. And maybe this is their way to kind of like hide it, but like eventually, you know, they're gonna have to put her in a singles match, and she's gonna have to either she's gonna do really good or she's gonna do really bad, and we're gonna find out. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun tonight.
She's gonna.
That was fine. I thought the action was good with like the Kabuki Warriors in particular, Asuka and Kairi Sane really they didn't want to waste an opportunity. You know, you could say that, you know, people could have phoned in this match and, you know, because it's literally a vehicle just for Jade Cargill tonight. But Kabuki Warriors were like, oh, this is our opportunity. Let's go out there. And they were really they were killing Bianca Belair and Naomi with some of their stuff. That insane elbow off the top rope onto, I think it was Naomi had to catch her. That was brutal. Yeah. That looked nasty.
It did.
You know, like really, like there was some good action before Jade got tagged in here. So you know, props to all the women involved in this, because I mean,
it was good.
They really did it. Everybody did their part to get Jade over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Hopefully,
but I hope there's better things in store for Bianca Belair, because Adam's right. I mean, like she's
just, I mean, fuck,
it's her and Rhea. Those are the two faces of the women's division, and you know, like this kind of is like, you know, what Becky Lynch was doing last year. Think about what she did last year. It was you know, like when somebody holds the title for a while, then you have to have that lull year where you just kind of like do stuff. This is her doing stuff. This is Becky with Trish and Lita last year versus Damage Control once again. You know, the same team pretty much, which means that they've done nothing. But I think next year is bigger stuff for Bianca Belair. It's only a matter of time before she rises to the top. And, you know, and again, they can put Jade over as much as they want. Like you said, Adam, she's going to eventually have to have a match where it's not all smoke and mirrors. And that'll be the determination of whether she is going to get to that level or not.
I mean, it seems pretty obvious when they signed her and she started working out. They were like, uh-oh. And so they decided to cool it down a little bit.
Which is smart.
It is smart.
But she also said, work it out on TV.
She, the press conference, I was catching a little of the press conference, and they were walking out. All three of the girls were tonight. And there was a moment where Jade's like, hey, you know, I'm not super young. I'm in my 30s. And if I'm going to make this transition to this company, now's the time. And, you know, I need to do this on a bigger platform than I was before. And I know that's going to piss off AEW people so much, but it's a bigger platform. And they can't get mad when someone's saying something that's true. Like, it's a bigger platform, but I hope that would be the biggest swing and a miss, if that they sign this girl who looks like $1 million, but she just can't get the in-ring figured out. I think she can. I'm going to say this. It's going to be shocking to me if she can't get this figured out, because she's incredibly athletic. She has insane charisma. She's really good on the mic. She knows how to handle herself, how to interact with the crowd. It's rough right now, but I'm gonna think positive and say she's gonna get this and figure it out, and they'll be okay. But
they'll just have her face Natalia like 76 times, and
that's
generally what they do.
It's usually what they do. As long as she, I mean, like you said, she'll figure it out, and she has to have that powerhouse approach. Like, try not to be too acrobatic, even though she's very athletic.
She's super athletic.
Go with the big moves. Don't try and overcomplicate things, right? But we'll see what it gives eventually. I mean, like you said, it's gonna have a singles match, and
we're gonna see.
We'll see what gives.
Happens.
Speaking of single matches, this was the last one on the card, and it's one of our favorites: Gunther versus Sami Zayn. We spoke about this at the start briefly. I guess technically the right decision was made. Sami Zayn getting the win.
I saw some people that were a little surprised. They thought, Sami shouldn't be the guy to do this. And I was like, why? Like, I mean, I know it was a long title reign for Gunther, and I feel like they're ready to take him to the next level now because
Yes.
he's done this run, and this run has really set himself apart. He's looked for the last 2 years like amazing in the Royal Rumble, like just this complete powerhouse, and always sticks around till the end. I think now's the time to bump him up. Like he's been kind of, from the little that I've seen, he seems like he's just kind of been that mid card reliable act that they can have in there. They can plug him in. They know they're going to get a solid 15, 20 minutes out of. And then he's had this awesome run as champion. He set that record. Let's see what he can do now at the next level. So, I mean, I think this was actually kind of a good thing, and that they can have Sammy now get this run, and now Gunther can move on. So I know, I mean, I guess between the two of you, who would have been the better choice to end the reign besides Sami Zayn? Like Kevin Owens?
No,
No.
gosh, no.
Okay.
I would have done. I mentioned this when we did the predictions. I would have had Damian Priest cash in
Interesting.
and have him pin Sami Zayn.
But doesn't
That
the
way-
briefcase state it's a world
Nope.
championship? It doesn't. Okay.
No, it doesn't.
They,
Okay.
they established
We had-
last year Austin Theory cashed in for the United States title.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
And then they also had Charlotte cash in for the NXT Women's
NXT.
title once, you know.
Okay.
versus Rhea.
All right.
Yeah, versus Rhea
Gotcha.
Ripley. But,
Okay. That'd be
like,
interesting.
I would have done that because then that way, as you said, Adam, like you could take Gunther to that next level.
Yeah.
And you could have done a whole thing. Well, I never lost. Sami Zayn's the one that got pinned. I never lost my title. We could have done that, but I think what we're gonna get with Zayn, and hopefully I'm wrong because it is technically a new era, but I said it last year. I'm gonna say it again. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens should not have been the ones to dethrone the Usos last year, and I don't think Sami Zayn should have been the one to dethrone Gunther. I don't know who should have been, but I know it probably should not have been Zayn. I don't know what Mike thinks.
It was so good though.
It was.
It was good. I mean, I get it if someone doesn't really like the choice, but the wife at the ringside and his little kid back. Maybe it's because it's Mike knows what I'm about to say. It's when you have the wife and the kid thing, and it's just like, oh, this is relatable, and then yeah, that stuff worked on me. But I can understand someone who's like single and it's like, that's stupid. Like I could get that too. So
No.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's stupid. I get it. It's just I would not have done it.
okay.
Yeah, so I was going to go with Sami Zayn on the prediction show, and I kind of talked myself out of it because I was like, well, it kind of felt like everything was kind of, like this storyline too felt very shoehorned. If they were going to do Sami Zayn versus Gunther, like how Triple H was saying, 80% of the show was booked in October. Like this one felt like it wasn't booked in October because if it was, I think they would have had Sami Zayn go through an extended losing streak, more promos about doubting himself, maybe even take some time away because he was doubting himself so much and then come back and, make one last go of it. But this stuff only started developing the last few weeks, which made me think like, like it's not like the conditions aren't perfect. But you know what? When in doubt, blame Mike. Of course, that's what my wife says. How about that? How about that? But you know what? Like the conditions for WrestleMania don't always have to be perfect because WrestleMania kind of cures a lot of ills just by being WrestleMania. Things seem like it's a much bigger deal once it starts happening. The build can be lukewarm. I've seen very, very lukewarm builds through the years, and then all of a sudden somebody goes out and has like a hell of a match. It's like, well, that was really great. That was WrestleMania worthy at the end. Sami Zayn coming out here tonight, going through all this stuff. I mean, some really vicious lariats. I mean, like Gunther doesn't pull any punches. This is a guy who goes full force with everything. Those power bombs that he took, like you could see his head bouncing off the mat like an egg.
Mm-hmm.
And when he hit the double power bomb, holy crap, that just did not look like a fun way to spend a Saturday night in Philadelphia. And there's really no fun nights in Philadelphia on any night, but especially taking a power bomb from Gunther. And like they drew the crowd into it because he beat him down so badly, and he was kind of so arrogant with him that you wanted to see Gunther lose by the end of it, and they gave you exactly what you wanted. Gunther slipped on a banana peel. He made a mistake for the first time on the main roster tonight. He has not been pinned. He lost once by count out to Chad Gable. In 2 years, he's lost once. He lost tag matches, but singles matches, never been pinned. Never been pinned.
It made it mean more too, the fact that he hasn't made mistakes, and then when he lost, you're like, holy shit! Like it just, I love too the subtlety of him. Like he could have already, like, after you're talking about the power bombs, he could have just pinned him and won the match. But then they were on commentary like, oh, he's just playing with his food right now. Like he's gonna go up to the top rope and hit us. I like that his splashes too look like shit, but when they hit though, he's so big that it looks like it hurts. Like he's not getting like, Jey Uso, Rey Mysterio frog splash air. He's just kind of like collapsing on top of them.
But Gravity's absolutely winning that one.
It looks really bad, but then like when he hits though, you're like, oh, it looks like it hurts. So like, and the fact that he kept like doing it, and then the second time he like looked at Sammy's wife and he's like, I'm gonna do it again. And like, it was just, I don't know what it was, but it was just, I loved all the aspect of the wife at the ringside and him playing with his food, and then oh shit, like slips on the banana peel, and then there we go. So I get what Mike's saying though, of what Roy was saying. Like, maybe it should have been Sammy, but Sammy's always been that underdog kind of character, and he plays that role really, really well. And I'm 100% biased. I've always enjoyed Sami Zayn's work. I loved his stuff in NXT. I loved the initial stuff he did on the main roster when he came up. I'm absolutely terrified every time I see him warming up, because I think he's going to blow his shoulder out again like he did when he debuted on Raw. And he had to wrestle John Cena with like a fucking torn. What was it? Was it
labrum or something like that?
Yeah, it was something. Yeah, I couldn't remember what it was, but all he was doing was flailing his arms in the air too fast, and then he just went, oh, and I'll never forget that. That was the night that Brett introduced him. And yeah, that was wild. So every time I see him, like, he was like shoulder checking, like production boxes. I was like, dude, don't do that. Like you might screw this up before the match even starts. But I thought it was cool too when they were following him backstage and Kevin Owens was right there, and that was cool. So I loved everything about this. It was good.
And also, I mean, like, you don't like, sometimes, being the person right after the really long reign is kind of an unenviable task, like, because you're following like this like really strong title reign. Like I think Sami Zayn's the guy that could do that and probably hold the title for somebody else who then will take it and then do something, do the next big thing with it. But you want like this title's been established as like the workhorse title. Sami Zayn has some history. It's not like he's he hasn't been in the mix of like major title matches, in the last year. He main evented WrestleMania last year. So it makes sense in that, using that logic. But, I don't think he's going to be champion for a long time. That's for sure.
No, it's probably going to be the transitional champion.
But we'll see. But regardless, it was a phenomenal match. I mean, like,
oh yeah.
Actually, I would have signed up for one more Gunther versus Sheamus match. Like those matches were brutal as well. If I could pick somebody other than Sami Zayn, maybe it would have been Sheamus. But he hasn't been around in a while. I miss Sheamus.
Yeah, there's been him, Braun Strowman. There's been a couple of guys that have just kind of disappeared off television in the last couple of months. But
I mean, a really phenomenal match. Gunther, I think, is moving to that next level. He's going to be championship material, world championship material, and again, that's getting back to what the original intent of the Intercontinental title was. Back in the 80s, with that Triple H is a humongous fan of, by the way. It was like Macho Man Savage holds the Intercontinental title. Next year, he's WWF champion. It's like that was Bret Hart. It was a big deal when he won the Intercontinental title, because that's like the gateway drug to the WWF title. It's like that was how it was viewed for so long, and it kind of like lost that. Now, this really long 666-day reign by Gunther reestablishes that title as like the premier title. And actually, whatever Gunther does next is going to be really important for the Intercontinental title, even as an ex-champion, because that's going to be the blueprint that everybody else is going to want to try to follow and accomplish. So there's still a lot more story to be told here and in the post Intercontinental title phase for him now. So a lot of good stuff coming out of this. The match itself was phenomenal. They got me into it. I wasn't feeling it before, and by the end of the match, I was like, God, what a great match! What a WrestleMania quality match.
That it was. That it was. You mentioned a couple of seconds ago in terms of what a great story to be told. Great segue. Thank you for that, Mike.
You're welcome.
It's going to bring us to the main event. Talking about stories being told and finishing a story. Bloodline versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. I mean, we spoke about this on the predictions show. We said Rock pins Cody. I think I said it, you said it, and Alex said it. I'm not sure if Jerome had mentioned it, but we all kind of said that'd be the ending. Right decision going into night 2? Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I like stacking the deck against Cody more because it's going to mean more when Cody wins tomorrow night. And I don't. I mean, unless they really want to pull another fast one and not have Cody win, and that was the end game. But it feels like that's the reason they did what they did tonight, was to really, dig that in of like Cody's completely screwed now, and I love the fact of Seth and Cody like 3 or 4 different times thinking, oh, we won the match, and then looking at each other going like, damn, like what do we got to do to overcome this? And you think they're about to win, and boom, and then there's just something about the Rock just has this like presence that has been missing from wrestling for so long, where like you just believe. I mean, the final boss stuff has been really, really entertaining. And it's believable because like that's the dude, man. Like, and I know he's never been this like phenomenal wrestler, and that's really never been the draw with The Rock. It's always been his charisma and his promo ability and his believability. And when he says something, and like I've been going back and forth with Roy for weeks about like him, making fun of the Cody crybabies and stuff, and just embracing, and then just to see this hint of where things could be going with the product when they get on Netflix. Of tonight he was the referee when they went to the outside. I was I was complaining earlier about how like, oh, this is so cliche to do the outside, but then when the referee was starting the count, he's like, don't you fucking start counting. And the mic, I noticed they were going to try to bleep him out, say the F word, and then they were too late. But his believability is what has been missing, I think, from wrestling. I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for saying that, but like when you listen to a lot of guys cut promos and they I'm going to do that, and it's like, I just really didn't believe it. Like, I felt like I was just watching a movie and a show, but like when The Rock says something, I'm like, oh shit, like that's probably going to happen. And he doesn't try to, and it's the Attitude Era Homer and me of, witnessing the rise of that character and then watching him reinvent himself when he came back, and that stuff was always great. And I kind of just assumed after, he did the stuff at, the 2 Manias in a row with Cena, I thought, okay, that's probably going to be it for what we're going to get from him. And then for him to be now back in the fold again is completely wild. It brought way more attention to the show. It added a new element to the show that, there was so much anger about, how they initially were the direction they were going to go with booking, the main event. And the fact that they were able to kind of have fun with this and book this tag match. And I saw some people saying like, man, did they blow their wad tonight by having all 4 of these guys wrestle? But like tomorrow night, Rock's not going to be wrestling. Roman will be wrestling. Cody will be wrestling. Seth will be, but Seth's got a new opponent. So I don't think they really did, but I like the fact that they kept giving you this sense of like, oh shit, these guys might pull this off and beat The Rock and Roman Reigns, and then didn't. And then the commentary really going, hey, Cody's completely screwed tomorrow. Like,
yeah,
it's like Corey Graves, I thought was like a really, really good thing. He's like, buckle up everybody, because we're probably going to see tomorrow night exactly how things played out last year. So I thought that execution of tonight was really, really well done. It started very slow. I was getting a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. After about 10 minutes, I was like, uh-oh, this isn't going very well. And then they picked it up and they figured it out. And it was very good. It was very, very good.
Yeah, I really, again, talking about like what The Rock did here was he really does bring that next level of stardom to the show. And like you said, that believability. The only other person that really brought that believability in the last couple of years has been Brock Lesnar.
Yep.
Another Paul Heyman project there. Interesting, real quick. I was cruising on Twitter. that Triple H said that Brock Lesnar is not gone from WWE. He mentioned it at the press conference. He's not gone from WWE. He's just off somewhere being Brock Lesnar. So the fact that they're even saying that, we're not done with him yet is definitely news, especially when they went out of their way during Paul Heyman's Hall of Fame video to not show Brock Lesnar whatsoever.
He said his name, but they didn't. Yeah.
But in the video itself,
they
never showed who was the 1 in 21-1, but that Paul Heyman managed that person.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah. Well, I mean, we know why, but
of course we know why, but it's like, it's something, I'm wondering, like, if we ever see Brock again, but again, he's the only one that ever brings that true, feeling of believability. Like, I believe, like, when I watch a show that Brock's on, it's like everybody else they're doing their wrestling. That's wrestling. But when Brock does it, it's real, and that's how I felt about The Rock as well here, like that whole thing about, slapping Cody, at the press conference felt like, was that scripted? Was that meant to be, did he really piss him off? Like, they blurred lines so well here, starting off with, it was supposed to be Rock and Roman in the main event. And then Cody thwarted the plans. And, is there some real life animosity between these people? Because that was the planned main event. And then the Cody crybabies, as The Rock calls them, really, did cause them to change direction to the point where they still never really truly explained why Cody gave away the main event first and then went back on his word. They never got to that part. So part of me thinks that it wasn't as planned as they make it seem. No. But, like they blurred the lines enough. And then when The Rock bloodied him up a couple weeks ago, that really just kind of took this thing and moved it to the next level. Everything that Dwayne does is high level, well thought out, and he has that freedom to do so. Not only just because of who he is, but God, he sits on the board of directors. So hey, if I want to do blood in my segment, we're going to do blood in my segment. And Triple H had a really good talk about, I think it was I forget who exactly he was talking to. It might have been on the Pat McAfee show, where he was saying, like, blood is a thing that we might start bringing back. Like, we're rated TV PG, but for a long time we've been G, not even PG. We've been so sterile and so clean that, when you get Dwayne in there and he starts, like, cussing a little bit, like, whoa, like, what is this? Because they've been, they were so careful about everything. So he's brought that edge back that's been desperately needed to the programming, which in turn is really, Roman Reigns has really hit like superstar levels and beyond. This has even elevated him even more just by being associated with The Rock. I really did love the match once it started getting going. Like Adam said, it was a little slow to get started, but by the end, I mean, like, Cody Rhodes giving him a rock bottom through the table. I mean, like, I did not think that The Rock was going to be taking a table bump. That's for sure. The people's elbow pinning him. The only thing I didn't like about the whole entire presentation was The Rock with that stupid fucking title belt. That's about it. But everything else was just like so really, really well done. And the story of, like, Cody Rhodes has been going through the gauntlet all year after losing at WrestleMania last year. He immediately got attacked by Brock Lesnar, had to go through a gauntlet with Brock Lesnar, 3 matches against him, beat him all. I think he beat him all 3, or he beat him 2 by pinfall and 1.
He passed out. He passed out on one, I think.
Maybe that was it. Maybe that was, he passed out from one of them. It was kind of like a kind of funky finish. Yeah. But he ran through Brock. He got through Nakamura, the Judgment Day, all these different things. He had to go back and win the Royal Rumble again. Then he had to, it's been an uphill battle against the Bloodline since. In order to finish the story, there has to be some major, major drama, and Bloodline rules. That's the biggest drama. That the whole reason that this happened was to set up that night too. And Roman Reigns will have the out for losing because he had to have this 45-minute match and his nose was busted tonight. And they went through this war before. So it's not like, you didn't beat me at my best. You could always say that. Mm-hmm. There's always an out for him on that. But really just some strong storytelling here. It had Paul Heyman's fingerprints written, all over it. WWE Hall of Famer Paul Heyman. And it's the right result. It's the right result. Other than a few lulls in this, it was a fantastic main event.
Yeah. My only question is, I wonder if they're going to play on the fact that Roman did, in fact, hit the spear on The Rock.
Yeah, maybe.
Like if that plays into night 2, where maybe The Rock accidentally hits Roman, or he costs him the title, or something, right? Something happens with that. I think they have to have Cody win.
I know.
They absolutely have to at this point. It's and what I'm worried about is, like, I mean, Mike, you mentioned it earlier. Right after WrestleMania, there was that like commercial for the documentary where Triple H said back in October, 80% of the card was kind of set for WrestleMania and all the plans were done. There was an interview with The Rock that I was reading, I think it was this morning, where he said the initial plan was for him to face Roman at WrestleMania, but when they saw the reaction from the crowd, that's when they had to backtrack a little bit and change it up. So if that is the case, and if what Triple H has said is true in terms of 80% of the card was done, then it must mean that at one point Rock versus Roman was set to be the main event.
Yeah.
With that said, had that been the main event, you would have to think Roman would win, right?
You would think so.
You would think so.
Yeah.
So that means they must have altered all their plans after WrestleMania, because if not, we're getting Roman winning, and whatever plans were in place for WrestleMania are still in place because Roman would win on Sunday.
Well, I think they can, just add a pit stop in that journey. Maybe, The Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania next year
or something. Yeah.
Maybe. They don't, or SummerSlam. Yeah. They like, that's a match that honestly,
doesn't need a title.
When they started even teasing it, I was like, that it doesn't need the title.
No,
really, like the title is like a secondary thing to, like, The Rock versus Roman Reigns. That's more like a spectacle match, where if it was for a title match, like the result is not even remotely in doubt, because The Rock is not going to be, he's not even going to be part-time the way that Roman was part-time. As soon as he gets involved in another movie production, like, you're not going to see The Rock for a few months. And then if he gets involved in another project, all of a sudden it's like, do we have a chance? Is there a champion? Like what is the storyline? So it could only be Roman that could win, which made me think, like, if they want to do this right, you don't need a title for The Rock and Roman Reigns. It's more compelling to do it without a title, because then The Rock could potentially win that match.
Yeah. Very true.
Sure.
Very true. Was it just me, and even Pat McAfee mentioned it? He said, why is Seth wrestling tonight? He has a championship match tomorrow. Was Seth almost like an afterthought in this match for you guys?
No, I mean, I liked his involvement in the Vegas press conference where Rock was talking and he was in the back going, like, no one gives a shit what you have to. He was just like, he was like the kid that was. He reminded me of the WWE fans that were the loyal CM Punk fans when Rock came back and beat Punk. And there was always people like, we don't fucking need this guy here, and who gives a shit that it's The Rock, and he shouldn't be beating Punk. And Seth reminded me of those people, and catcalling in the background, and I thought that was great. And he just kept like yelling at The Rock of like, shut up, and no one cares, and blah blah blah. So I mean, I think his involvement makes sense. But yeah, I mean, tomorrow night he's got someone he's facing somebody that had nothing to do with this. So I mean, I could understand why someone would be like, well, why was he involved? But like this, and I know Triple H was on Logan Paul's podcast, and
that's where it was. That's where he said that quote, by the way.
Yeah, and he was talking about, because like he's asked by Logan Paul, like, was this really the plan, or did you, like, many months ago pencil in The Rock and Roman? He's like, oh yeah, we penciled in Rock and Roman, like we thought that was going to be our match, and then we deviated because, I mean, it seemed almost like we were going to get Cody challenging for the other title, and then things just changed for the better, and they just rolled with it. And I remember, I mean, the anger that I saw on X, and everyone was like, God, I mean, that full week, and was something I hadn't seen in a long time, since like maybe the Daniel Bryan debacle, where the fans were just, sabotaging the shows. They were really pushing Cena and Randy Orton, and the crowd was like, nah, we don't want to see this again. So it's good that they listened, and they listened with Daniel Bryan, and they're listening with Cody. So this idea that like they just don't listen is hilarious to me, because they do listen. but I think this changed for the better, and I think Seth being there was fine. I mean, who else could you have really plugged in there that would have made? I mean, you maybe Jey Uso, maybe, I don't know, but
Maybe, but you know what? You have the two world champions of the company, facing
Exactly.
off. It's
Yeah.
No,
Makes sense.
Like, don't like what I mean. What I mean by that is, it makes sense for Seth to be there, all things considered, even if he has a title match tomorrow. But what I mean was, even the commentators, like, it was all about Cody and finishing the story tomorrow, and this is all stacked against them. There was no mention of Seth. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah.
That was kind of what bothered me a little bit.
Well, actually, I think that really could play into a potential storyline with Seth Rollins. So, like, I do think in my mind, it's like another thing. He has to lose to Drew McIntyre tomorrow because Drew's been absolutely killing it.
Drew,
with his character, and also they need to get that title off him now. It's time.
Drew posted a video of himself watching the main event.
Yes, I saw that.
Wearing a CM Punk shirt.
Yeah. And then he took a picture of the screen after, and he goes, "This is gonna be the easiest payday of my life."
He's such a troll. I love what he's doing right now.
Great stuff. But like, I like that. It kind of ties into the opening match too, with Becky Lynch losing his wife. I think it's going to be a very bad weekend for them, which could lead to Becky not doing a rehash of 2019, over and over again. Where she can get an edge, if she were to turn heel. I think Rhea Ripley is on a fast track to turn face. And I also think that obviously, Drew McIntyre is a great heel, and he's going to win the world title as a heel. Do you really need to have Seth Rollins as a heel as well? Yes, because that should be Cody Rhodes' first title defense. Really, I could see Seth feeling like an afterthought coming out of this, because nobody is talking about him. It's all about Cody, and The Rock and Roman Reigns, and like you said, Roy, he is kind of forgotten about. I even I got called out on Twitter because all my comments were about like the storyline with the Bloodline and Cody Rhodes, and like, oh Cody, it's all Bloodline with you, and God damn it, Seth Rollins in the match. I was like, all right, relax, watch the post show. I'll talk about it. I promise you.
That was the focus. I mean, makes sense.
But it was the focus, and honestly, after a while, I was like, oh yeah, Seth Rollins in that match too. He was great. He did nothing wrong. But I think it was almost designed. I think he was designed to be an afterthought at the end, that he didn't factor into the finish at all, that it did come down to just Roman Reigns and The Rock double teaming on Cody Rhodes. And, and Seth is going to ultimately pay the price for that by losing his title, trying to help Cody. It could lead to him blaming Cody. I still think during the main event tomorrow night, Seth Rollins is going to run out and stomp Cody for a great near fall. A really, really great near fall. Yeah. Set up, the next couple months of title matches for Cody Rhodes, another series against Seth Rollins. And some new edge, and get rid of that fucking trench coat that he was wearing tonight. I don't know what the hell that was, but it was horrific.
Can you guys, and I know we've been going long, but can you briefly describe to me from when I stopped watching?
No one knows. No one knows.
Because I don't understand. It's the music is funny, but the Seth Rollins I stopped watching was the Burn It Down Seth Rollins with the heavy metal, and he would wear the T-shirt, and he would have the similar gear. He would change his gear for WrestleMania. We do something wild, but the weird sunglasses and clothes and what is this?
We spoke about this on Raw. We spoke about this on the prediction show. We don't get his character.
Yeah,
I don't know what his character is supposed to be.
It's just a guy that wears wild costumes, and okay.
I mean, even the costume that he wore tonight felt like it's the peak of the character. It was so out of the ordinary and so strange that it's almost like, okay,
it makes him stand out. Maybe that's his purpose, is he really, really wants to be different from everybody else, and in that sense, it's successful. But I'm like, okay,
somebody mentioned that I forget who it was. Actually, I think it was the Sage of Wisdom of Kevin Nash that said, you know what, I didn't get Seth Rollins before, but now I do. He's the modern day Macho Man Savage with the crazy costume.
Yeah.
He's the support. He's even though he's the world champion, it's like everybody knows that's a bullshit world title because Roman Reigns isn't around all the time. So we need to have a title on Raw. He's like he's like that supporting character, to like the major superstar of like Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. He'll always be like that supporting guy. He's never going to be the guy. That's Macho Man Savage. Maybe he's it's an homage to Savage. Drew McIntyre killed him on Monday. He's like, yeah, you saw Jared Leto play the Joker and you made a whole character around it. He goes, you're cool. It's like basically, I guess that's the character summed up, as best as possible by Drew McIntyre.
Yeah. That came during the pandemic era. I guess that's where it all sort of started.
Yeah, where it started. Yeah.
It has not really gotten much better.
But it's time to change. I mean, like it really felt like, like that costume tonight, like where the commentators were like, what is this? Felt like, okay, we've reached the peak, the pinnacle of all these ridiculous costumes, and it's over. And now it's he's exhausted all of his crazy costumes. Now it's time for a little bit of a character change. We'll see.
We'll see what gives with him after WrestleMania. Adam, I know you said you probably won't be able to make it for tomorrow, but can we get your prediction on the main event for tomorrow? Does Cody finish his story?
I mean, I can't imagine spending this much time with Cody winning the Rumble 2 years in a row. Yeah, and like last year that was an interesting call. I remember I caught the main event thinking, oh, Cody's going to win. We're going to get this. I vividly remember telling both of you at that time, strap a rocket to Cody, ride this train, like just go with it. And then they went, nah, I think we're not going to do that. And I thought that was an interesting move. But then when things trended back to where we are now, where he's winning the Rumble again, he's back in the mix. I guess my question is, if they decide not to do it tomorrow, what could you possibly do with Cody Rhodes after this? Because it's not like a scenario where like, oh, he could just go to, because technically he's Monday Night Raw exclusive. And I heard there's a draft coming up, but if he jumps to SmackDown, and Roman's still in that position, or maybe Roman gets drafted, I don't know. But there's not a lot of room. But I mean, the potential of what Mike was saying to set up like a feud between him and Seth Rollins again, that could be fine. But it's like, man, like, what are we doing? Like, let's at least try. Let's at least give it a shot and see how he does, and give him this moment. And I will be very, very pleasantly surprised if Cody doesn't win tomorrow. My prediction is Cody wins, and I'll be extremely shocked and surprised if they don't pull the trigger on it. And if they don't, they better have a phenomenal, roadmap from now until next year's WrestleMania. And maybe they do. And maybe this is just going to be something that they hard sell him on and say, hey, I know this doesn't seem like it makes sense, but it's going to, and maybe they do it again. I don't know, but I feel like it's going to be Cody winning tomorrow.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I think you get one mulligan, and I think everybody kind of forgave it because of what happened the next night with Vince coming back. And there was all those talk last year, even, when Triple H, it seemed like the show was going really well, that there was a lot of Vince influence that, so something would get changed on the show and they'd be like, oh, that was Vince. Oh, that whole thing was Vince's idea. It would come out and it's like, oh, why did that thing suck? And then the next day it would come out, oh, that was Vince called that in on Zoom, Triple H. So I think they got a mulligan last year because it was like, well, that was a Vince call. Maybe it was, but they were able to salvage it by like, okay, Cody doesn't win this year, partly because he hasn't been established. Maybe this makes sense because, he came back at the WrestleMania the year before, was around for like 2 months and got injured, tore his pec off the bone, and had that awesome Hell in a Cell match and disappeared for months. Came back at the Royal Rumble, first time back, and then he kind of just skyrocketed right to the WrestleMania main event. Maybe some people will say that that's too shoehorned. So you know what? We'll get it. We'll give him a taste and then beat him and then have him go through the hard times. And if he can stay healthy, we'll have this great storyline and we'll get him back. I don't think you can do that again.
Yeah.
I don't think you get another mulligan, especially now we know that Vince is completely gone. I think people, rightly so, would probably question the booking of Paul Levesque, and he could prove everybody wrong. Like you said, Adam, he could prove everybody wrong if they have a phenomenal roadmap that we just aren't seeing. But I can't imagine that if they count 3 on Cody's shoulders tomorrow night or later today for me, that it won't at least do some irreparable damage to Cody Rhodes as a top tier babyface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he has to. Even if I know
And
Adam,
it doesn't
you
matter that
mentioned
it's predictable. Who cares?
no.
cares?
Sometimes predictable is good.
Right. The show's already sold. Who cares? You're going to watch it anyway.
That's it.
Give that WrestleMania moment. Some people tune in for those humongous moments. It's like, how many people really thought Shawn Michaels was going to lose that Iron Man match?
Oh, dude, I watched that with Paul. I still remember.
Seriously. The only one was Paul.
Back in '96.
Yeah,
Only
No,
person
he knew. He knew. No, he knew Shawn was gonna win. I still remember Paul's reaction.
You could tell with all the training of Shawn with
It was great. I mean, like, I remember those training videos. Like, they had Shawn Michaels looking so spry, and then they had like Brett jogging on ice.
Yeah, I know. Brett was just on ice, and he had the Canadian tuxedo on, walking around, and I know.
28 years ago. Yeah,
so
remember that
clear.
Yeah.
But they went with it anyway.
Alex,
who cares?
Yeah.
Heyman said it. I'm bringing Alex's comment up. Heyman said it after last year's WrestleMania. He said, we're still in the 3rd inning.
Yeah.
If we're not in the 9th right now, like bottom of the 9th, I don't know what the hell's going on.
It's going to be wild.
It's messed up. They have, I have this here. They have him on the cover of the new 2K game.
Right.
It finished the story. If he loses, this is.
The more we talk about this, though, like with Roy holding up that cover, I'm like, they could very easily not do this tomorrow, and
they could troll everybody.
They really could. I mean,
actually, if you play the game, when Corey Graves starts to introduce the Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns match, Cody Rhodes actually pops up in the video. He's like, hold on a second, hold on. I'm on the cover, and the only match you're featuring me is me losing. Are you kidding me? It's like so funny. It was so good. I don't think it happens. But
I don't think it does.
No.
We don't have to be in the 9th inning, but there might be a few innings where Roman Reigns isn't champion, but there's more story to be told with him as a former champion now.
True.
True.
Like the title doesn't have to be the end of the bloodline. It could just be another inning.
Is it surprising that we didn't get like a solo Sikoa or anything like that tonight?
I think they're saving that for tomorrow.
Yeah. And actually, real quick, before we get out of here, I know that we're really, really running late now, and I really don't want to get past the 2-hour mark, but I do want to say, the last couple years that they've done, again, these 2-night WrestleManias are still new, and I think they're still navigating how to book these things and how to lay them out. It seemed like especially the last 2 years, the first one where you had Stone Cold in the main event, like how the hell can you follow that? I mean, like that was like so outrageous and spectacular that it was really, really difficult to follow. So night 2 felt like a disappointment because it was like, well, we don't have Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestling in the main event. Like that was a really, really cool thing. Even last year, I thought that night 1 of WrestleMania last year because it felt like a standalone show. It felt like a standalone show that was like one of the top 10 WrestleManias that I've ever seen as a standalone show. Not thinking about night 2, just from what I saw. So night 2 would have a hard time following that. I think they finally got the formula right tonight, where it feels like the whole show, like there were good matches, but other than the Sami Zayn Gunther match and then of course the main event should be phenomenal. Nothing was like blow you away. Even the ladder match had some good stuff, but it wasn't gonna. They weren't blowing their load on it, right? Like it really feels like tomorrow's WrestleMania is going to be a continuation of this one because of the bridge from this main event to night 2. I think this is the really, really a smart way to book it, and it feels like this isn't a standalone WrestleMania, but rather one continuous WrestleMania with a long intermission. I think that was what I was looking for tonight. And I think they hit that. There was nothing on this show that was like, wow, night 2 is going to have a really hard time following that. I think everything's building toward that Cody Roman main event, right down to like Roy was asking, leaving Solo Sikoa out. It's all about just saving everything for that main event. Don't give everything away and let that main event be.
Well, think about how many WrestleManias you and Victoria went to that would start at like 5 or 6 o'clock and would wrap at like 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. Like it was just too much content, and that's the one thing that I do kind of like. Oh, this sucks that I kind of missed out on this. Is that I would dread WrestleMania because I knew how long the show would go, and it would just be so drug out, and there would be barely any intermissions, and everything you just said there, Mike, makes so much sense of like how they're maybe kind of figuring it out with the night 1, night 2 format of letting things breathe. You know, someone in the chat, I think it was Jameli, said this is the first year that they've tried telling a story across 2 nights of Mania, and I thought that was a great comment because it's true, because it's just. They're like you said, they're laying that bridge to the following night. So it's a new way to approach Mania. Because man, for a couple years there, I remember. I mean, I could hear it in your voice when you would call us. You'd be like, "Man, these shows are just getting longer and longer," and by the time you would get to that main event, the crowd was just absolutely spent. So, doing these like 3.5, 4 hour shows, night 1, night 2. I mean, it kind of helps, and you get a lot more people on the card maybe, and. It works out. So
absolutely. And moments mean more. I mean, like that first women's main event, on like Becky Lynch's title reign, that WrestleMania was on April 7th. I remember because Victoria's birthday is April 8th. Becky Lynch's title reign actually starts on April 8th because that match didn't finish until 12:30 in the morning.
Yep.
It's great. And the show, we got there at like 3 o'clock, entered in at 4, the pre-show starting at 5. That's a long ass time. And I do wonder, how much better would that have been if this was like a 2-night event? Like even, it'd been that way for almost 10 years. Like I remember WrestleMania 30, was like, even though it was WrestleMania and they had that big Daniel Bryan finish, but by the time they got to it, was like, oh, thank God it's the main event. Thank God.
Yeah.
And I remember like when the Becky Lynch match was over, I was like, thank God we can go. Like no one should be feeling that way after WrestleMania. Like you should be like, oh my God, I can't believe it's over. I want more.
I think the one I heard the most from you was with Undertaker and Roman Reigns, where you were like, I was just so ready for the show to be over before that match even started. And it was because it was already going super. I remember looking at the clock and like Undertaker was just starting. I was like, what are we doing? Like it just, it was too much content. So they figured it out. They would have like better.
4.5 hour like B pay-per-views, like crazy, like Money in the Bank, like 4 hours.
Well, tonight the show started at 7. The Cody's entrance started at 10:03 p.m. Eastern. Entrances finished at 10:24. So it was like a 20-minute entrance. I timed it. It was like 21-minute entrances. But the show ended around 11:30 or 11:15 Eastern.
Roughly
or so. So it was still a 4-hour show, but
didn't feel
to a certain degree, didn't feel that way. It didn't feel that way.
Better paced.
Yeah,
it's just but it wasn't like 4 hours and they tried to squeeze in like 11 matches.
No, and you didn't have the pre-show before where you had like 2 or 3 matches in the pre-show, and then you had NXT before,
right?
And this and that,
right.
So.
They had 7 matches, and some of them didn't go all that long. Like Jey Uso and the tag match, all 10, 11 minutes.
The other thing that they didn't do this year, they've been doing every single year, even the 2-night events, is they did not bring out the Hall of Famers this year.
I noticed that.
That's true. Yeah.
Are they doing that tomorrow night maybe instead?
Tomorrow, I'm sure.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
But, like last year, they did it on both shows. The year before, it was on both shows. So
I
don't know. They're testing it out.
I'm getting used to hearing the term PLE now, and I was like, "What the fuck does PLE mean?" Because I kept hearing Triple H and all these. I'm like, "What are they talking about?" And I was like, "Oh, that's how they're approaching the Peacock era," which is I know. Which I don't know how. Did they indicate how much longer that's going to last when they go on Netflix? Because I mean,
I think they're signed through 2026 with Peacock, and then they'll but on Netflix and internationally, the library will be
over there
on Netflix for international. So I'm sure they'll transition that.
Gonna have to sign up to Netflix again.
Yep, and Netflix deal is it's a big deal. It really is, and they're gonna try their hand at live streaming to see all right, because they don't do it right now. There's no.
They've tested the waters with it. They've done a couple, like Chris Rock did a comedy special live on Netflix.
Right.
There's been a couple forms of entertainment that have
But
dipped their
they
toe
got
in.
Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
Yeah, that's going to be
Yeah.
probably the
That's a big
biggest.
one.
Yeah, that's in the summer, so that'll be kind of
That's
like
gonna be huge.
yeah. So we'll see
There's
how
a
they're
lot of eyes on that, and a lot of people streaming it.
Mhm.
So how
Yeah.
will the platform hold up? I'm sure it'll be just fine, but
We'll see. I don't know.
we'll see. But I mean, it's a good test for Raw because they're going to be going live weekly, and
Yep.
Raw still gets 1.8 million people watching. We'll see what happens, and
Yeah.
probably more now that it's on Netflix.
It's going to be double that. Yeah.
Well, in any event, this was great. I love talking to you guys. I could do it forever.
I know. It's fun.
It
Good
was
time.
fun.
I had
It's 2 in the
fun.
morning here. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, same. But for the record, Adam, are you actually going to be watching the show tomorrow?
A little bit, yeah. I have an early morning,
Okay.
so I'm gonna do all I can to at the very least catch the main event and see what happens. But yeah, early morning tomorrow, or early morning on Monday. So
On Monday.
yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Fair
I'm used to having the day off after WrestleMania. I would always. I wouldn't even dare to make any plans because I knew so much. I mean, Mike knows this, and you know this too, Roy. Like so much information comes out, and it just attendance numbers, and then announcements, and they tend to do a lot of stuff the day after WrestleMania. But yeah, I've adjusted to life outside of that now for quite a while, so it's weird, but I love getting to parachute in, and thanks for having me on these shows. I always appreciate it, guys. It's always a good time.
Anytime.
Always a pleasure to talk to Adam Martin.
Always welcome. Yes. And always a pleasure talking to a future first ballot Hall of Famer in Mike Tedesco as well.
That's right.
You are
That's
first
right.
ballot.
Yeah.
Yes. But on that note, thank you everybody for joining us. We're going to be live again in less than 24 hours discussing night 2. It's going to be something. Discussing night 2 of WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. My name is Roy Nemmer. This is the always welcome Adam Martin and the greatest Raw recapper of all time, Mr. Mike Tedesco. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for joining. See you guys in less than 24 hours for WrestleMania Night 2 or WrestleMania 40 Night 2. Take it easy, everybody. Take care.